Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, living room and friends. This afternoon I'm going to present my first book report of the second book review entitled The Railway's Children, and my topic is its impact on the changing of perspective of women's roles. Jump to the next one. First, I'm going to explain to you what this book is about in summary. So, in short, this book is like three children trying to prove their father's innocence. There's this family in London, the Waterbury's family, consists of Roberta, or also known as Bobby, Peter, and Phyllis. They are a wealthy family which lives comfortably in London. One day, suddenly, father hurriedly leave. After the departure of their father, the father didn't give any explanations to the kid whatsoever. The Waterbury family suddenly had to move out from London. They moved to a small cottage in the Yorkshire. And then on that cottage, they spotted a nearby train stations. And the train station, they went to the train stations every day, where they meet a bunch of people like Perks, the station's master, and there's this old gentleman whom they wave every day across the train racks, and also the old gentleman wave back. As day goes by, the kids, especially Roberta, the eldest daughter, are gradually learning that something's happening with their father. There's something unusual about their father's absence. As they learn more about their father's situations, they know from a newspaper that actually their father had been imprisoned for, in the book it was mentioned, for espionage. It's a false accusation actually. Their father was accused of being a spy for the opposing power of Britain, perhaps. And knowing that, they start making plans to get him out of jail. They help in a way to establish their father's innocence. And the periodization is early Edwardian. This book was first serialized in a London magazine in 1905, and then it was published in the book form in 1906, which falls under the category of early Edwardian. I'm not going to talk about the era. I'm not going to talk about deeply into the era. It's just to easily describe when was this book was published. And Edwardian era is, to describe to you, is when King Edward ruled from 1901 up to 1910. And then the last background is the society and the culture. The society and the culture in Edwardian is the middle class is rapidly growing, and to a significant extent replacing the aristocrat as the dominant class in the society. And then, because of this, a distinctive middle class lifestyle was developed, which influenced what the society has valued for as a whole. The increased importance of family, the increased importance value of family was placed, and also the idea of marriage based on romantic interest is also popular at this time. Because of this, a clear separations between home and workplace, work environment is established, which had not been the case before this era. Because of this also, the home was seen as a private environment where housewife provide respite, provide rest and comfort for their husband from the outside world, from the troubles of the world. Within this idea, women was expected to be more focused on domestic matters and to rely on men for the breadwinners of the family. And now I'm going to talk about how Nesbit changed the gender role through Mrs. Waterbury. Mrs. Waterbury, for your information, is the mother of the 3 children, which is the wife of Mr. Waterbury. So there's 3 main points that I want to draw on how Nesbit changed the gender role through Mrs. Waterbury. First, the character of Mrs. Waterbury is shown as this intellectual and witty woman. Her persona contradicts the assumption that women are limited into being housewife, into being domestic helpers, and also highlight the increasing acceptance of women's intellectual potential. The second point is, through Mrs. Waterbury's character, Nesbit subtly addressed the issue of gender role and women's rights. While the main point of this novel is not about gender roles at all, it provides a backdrop that reflects the changing attitude of the society on women's roles. And also the third point is, Mrs. Waterbury served as a positive role model for younger audience, and also on her children, especially Roberta. Her capability and her willingness to take action inspired Bobby and illustrate that women have a voice. Women could take action. They could have an influence beyond their traditional roles, especially when her husband is in prison. So she needs to take charge of the family. Perhaps that's all about it. Maybe any question?
Questions, please? Can you? Oh, okay, you have questions.
Is there any other aspect that maybe has brought to your attention other than gender roles?
Any other aspect other than gender roles?
Yes.
Let me think. Oh yeah, actually. I just did this research last night and I wasn't really going to expect to acknowledge this. So, do you remember how I told you that the story was brought when this, at first they are affluent, they are a wealthy family living comfortably in London, right? And then the father suddenly had to be imprisoned for the espionage thing, the false accusation thing, and then they were impoverished and they had to move out to the countryside, to Yorkshire, to live in a small cottage. In my opinion, that is a depiction of uh, socialist agenda on how, because despite their challenge, despite their family's challenge, having economic difficulty, they still find the fun and joy out of their everyday life. They still can bring adventure into their daily life. Like, for example, there's this, they went into a coal mine, and then they take some coal, and then they got caught, and then they perbaikan dengan the station master, because they promised that they wouldn't mengulangi lagi kesalahannya, and then Bobby, one of the three children, the eldest daughter, wanted to repair this Peter's toy, but she didn't have any money, so she wanted to look to the trains so that she knew what was wrong with the toes. But rather than, she was terpaksa ke bawah keretanya gara-gara dia nggak tahu jadwal keretanya kapan jalan gitu. Because of that, and then she had to ask the masinis to take her back to the railway station near her home, like that. Every chapter is a depiction of the three children's adventure into their everyday life. And turns out, when I read some article, it was confirmed that Edith Nesbit and her husband were an active member of the English Socialist Group or Britain Socialist Group. I forgot about the detail on which group was it. That's it. Any more questions?
Can you mention one scene or one a row of dialogue that shows the general that Mrs. Waterbury performs?
Good. In this matter specifically, the underlying role of Mrs. Waterbury is to be the breadwinner of the family, to support of the family. If I'm not mistaken, it could be found in the third chapter. It could be found in the third chapter where the children describe her to indulge in her work, which is selling stories and poetry to magazines. Oh, here it is. Chapter 3, the line goes with, "Mother, all this time, was very busy with her writing. She used to send off good many long blue envelopes with stories in them, and large envelopes of different sizes and colors used to come to her. Sometimes she would sigh when she opened them and say, 'Another story come home to roost. Oh dear, oh dear.' And then the children would be very sorry. But sometimes she would wave the envelope in the air and say, 'Hooray, hooray, a sensible editor. He's taken my story and this is the proof of it.' I took this line because I think this would underline the role of Mrs. Waterbury that as being the breadwinner of the family, as the husband is being falsely accused and being imprisoned during that time.
So she can actually raise her children by writing?
Yes, because in the early chapter where they still live comfortably, she actually wrote, but not for what's the word? Not for monetization's function. She wrote it for her children. She wrote stories and poems for when maybe when bedtime stories like that, or when Peter got sick, she made specifically a poetry for Peter.
And then it is sold, and then it is sent to the editor.
If the detail of the story that she had written for her children is sold, I don't really know and I don't really recall. But what I know is in the early chapter, she was described as being a witty writer, and then in the later chapter where she needed to use that skill to put for monetizations, she was able.
One last question, if any. And then, okay, thank you very much. Sudah bagus, hanya mungkin masih malu-malu untuk eye contact-nya.
Ya.
Temannya nggak dilihat, nggak mungkin ada yang bikin grogi, saya nggak tahu. Tapi ini nanti mungkin lebih ini lagi, artinya sudah idenya sudah mapan, sudah apa namanya logis, kemudian runtut begitu, nah tinggal eye contact-nya dilatihkan.
So how I present it.
Intinya isinya sudah. Mas siapa namanya?
Mas Dimas
Mas,
Gusti.
ya.
Yeah. Thank you, Gunung. Thank you, friends.
Thank you. Very good job. Please.